Hello and welcome to another game of Trap Chess. Today we are playing Chaos Mode. All of the rules for Chaos Mode can be found in the description of this video, and I'll also put a link in the top right hand corner of the screen for you to click and watch the video to understand how setup happened. Here we have our first landmine activation. It's a knight that's lost to a knight landmine on the c3 square. I take notes and I write down the different squares that pieces are lost, and c3 seems to be a really common square for knights to be lost when playing Chaos Mode. That's because it's one of the first squares a knight can move to after for its first move. Oh, we have another activation here. On the d5 square we have a landmine activating, removing black's pawn. Now, removing the pawn there isn't necessarily a bad thing, because we do have their queen on d8. So that pawn being removed allows their queen to move forward on that file, and it just covers all of those squares. That's the nice thing about trap chess. Sometimes you can have an activation and you think that activation hurts you, and it does in a way because you can lose points. But also it can open up X-ray attacks for other pieces. One of my favorite videos is the X-ray and traps video. I'll put a link in the top right hand corner of the screen so you can view it. That video talks about how with X-ray attacks in normal chess, when you move from a square to a new square, you can open up an X-ray attack from the square you move from. But with trap chess, if a trap activates when you move to the new square, you can then open up X-ray attacks from the square you move to. So it opens up a brand new strategy that hasn't been seen in chess before. So if you are the player that lost a piece to the trap, that means it's your opponent's turn, and they can then make the move through the square that the trap was on using that X-ray attack strategy mechanic. So in another version of trap chess or several other game modes, we have a different type of trap called chess piece traps, or CPTs. Those are equipped to the chess pieces, so you can see them at all times, but your opponent can't. So a lot of people tend to activate that X-ray mechanic with the CPTs because you can see, oh yeah, I have a bomb pawn CPT equipped to my pawn here. So if I have them take my pawn with their pawn, then my rook can go through there and do some damage. So they make their move, they take your pawn, they lose their pawn as a result of their move because of the trap, and then you go through with the X-ray attack. With Chaos Mode, that's a little more difficult to do, unfortunately. You don't know the locations of the landmines on the board, and you don't have CPTs where you can physically see what trap is equipped to which chess piece, and all the traps are just hidden in the board. Since you don't know the locations, unless you land on a square, see what the trap is, remember it, and then work that around your strategy, it's difficult to do or set up on your own those X-ray attacks that happen as a result of a trap activation going through the square the piece landed on. You have to give it some thought and kind of get a lay of the land and see where the traps are laid in Chaos Mode to be able to do a strategy like that. It's been a little while since we've had a trap activation, which is unusual in Chaos Mode. Oh, here's one. So we have a pawn landmine activating on the e3 square and removing black's pawn. Not only did that pawn activation take a pawn away from black and cause black to lose 1 point, but it also allowed white to put their rook on the e1 square and attacked black's queen, forcing them to move off of the e file. That matters because if you look on the e7 square, you have white attacking with their queen there, and white attacking with their rook on e7. So if black didn't make that move there to force the queen trade, then they would have had to keep protection on the e7 square to prevent a checkmate. It would have been easy for white to win if black moved that bishop and their queen out of the way. Oh, we have another landmine activation. In this situation, white was trying to push their pawn up. I'm going to put up the trap activation window now so you can see all of the different traps that have activated this game. You can see that black has lost 2 pawns to traps on the d5 and the e3 square, and white has lost a pawn on the f6 square and their knight on the c3 square. Traps activating isn't the #1 way to win in trap chess. You still have to play chess and checkmate your opponent. That's the most important thing. So black has been playing better chess than white this game as well, but those trap activations have helped. When you make a move, and as a result of that move you lose a piece, then your opponent has the opportunity to capitalize on that move. And black has done a much better job of capitalizing on that as well. Right now, black is trying to move their rook into the action, and white has just lost one of their two strongest pieces remaining to a trap. On b1, they lost their rook to a rook landmine. That's going to pretty much end the game now. Black has two bishops, a knight, and a rook versus white's rook, and the pawns won't really matter here because black is definitely going for checkmate. They've just blocked white's king from moving to the left to the f-file, and now white's king is kind of cornered. Black can end this with their bishop on the c5 square, which they do. White can only defend by moving their pawn up to d4, and then it's on Passant to win, which is really cool. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to help make trap chess a reality, and please comment your thoughts. I'd love to answer questions. Up next are the positions of all non-activated landmines.